Welcome to the Show Up Show, where we bring you everything you need to emerge as a powerful and healthy leader in your life, business, and relationships. Because how you show up in one area of life is how you show up in all of them. I'm your host, Debbie Pace, author of The Journal to Freedom, a foundational guide to help you examine your beliefs and how they shape your patterns and behaviors in life, so you can transform what's not working and can show up like a boss in every area of your life. This week on the Show Up Show, it was literally a jaw-dropping experience as Juliana Bishop, who is an author and success coach, shared with me some of her near-death experiences. And like maybe some of you, she has had to learn the hard way when it was really time to walk away from everything and find her own path. So how did she do it, and what lessons did she drop that might be valuable for you? Tune in now to find out.
My name is Juliana Bishop, and I am an author and a coach for individuals that are at that transition point in their life where they're facing some kind of adversity or some kind of shift or pivot that need the extra support to find that confidence, the courage, and the clarity to figure out their next path and their next move.
Right. And who can't use that? I mean, I can't think of a time in my life where I couldn't have benefited from that. So we've had the opportunity to have a little conversation first, and your story is pretty incredible. What I really love to do first is just have you explain your story of adversity and overcoming so many things that so many other people might have just quit and said, you know what, that's it, I give up. Can you share the story of how you got here? Let's start there.
Okay, so how I got here. I was working in Baltimore. I was a VP of a design firm, doing great. Everything looked wonderful from the outside. But on the inside, I knew things just, weren't right. But I didn't have the courage to do anything about that. And I had 3 events that happened in my life within a short period of time that really got my attention. It was like a universal wake-up call. I was driving with my son, and we were on a trip. I was at a light. I was starting to progress through this green light, and a car going like 70, 80 miles an hour went through the red light going the other way, missing us within inches. Like I felt like I could see, their breath.
Wow.
And then maybe a couple, leap forward a little while, and I was on a ladder in my house up in the ceiling trying to find a leak, and the ladder went out from beneath me, and I fell over 20 feet onto a stone floor. And
wow.
Actually got up with just bruises.
And that would be enough.
I don't
for
even
most
know
people,
how
right?
that was possible. My poor son, my infant son, or my small toddler son was, standing there screaming, "Mama, Mama!" I'm like, "I'm okay. I'm okay."
I mean,
even though I didn't know if I was or not,
Yeah, it's devastating. It's definitely devastating to watch a parent go through something like that. So that's one. That's number 2. But wait, there's more. Keep going.
Wait, there's more. Then I was pregnant with my daughter a short time thereafter. I was in my 8th month, and I was on the busy highway of, the Beltway around Baltimore, and got in a car accident and bent the steering wheel with my belly, and thought I had lost the child for sure. But she's a strong, stubborn 15-year-old now. She lived through that experience, and so did I. But it was really, I had to take an assessment of my life. Sometimes it takes me 3. I'm a little stubborn, a little hard-headed. It takes me 3 incidences to take notice.
Can we just pause for a second?
That was a very loud knock.
Yeah, can we pause for a second? You bent the steering wheel with your pregnant stomach.
I did.
And she's a beautiful...
And I had bruising from my lower stomach all the way to my chest, black and blue, and she was fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So obviously all of that is a huge wake-up call for someone, at least the 3rd time, right? So
yeah, the 3rd time's the charm, I guess. Yeah, I mean, literally, I sold my house. We moved north to a small rural town in New England, and, just to live the simple life and to get off that hamster wheel that I was on. And I had my own private practice at the time, private interior design practice. And then I started, wanting to do something different with my life. And I studied with Debbie Ford at the Ford Institute of Transformation. She's a spiritual leader she was friends with Deepak and Marianne. They did a book together, Marianne Williamson. And then she passed away. But before she passed, she did a book called Courage. And I'd been taking her programs for 3 years. I was a master coach for her, and there was a big elephant in the room, and I was in an abusive marriage and relationship, and I was not willing to look at it. I kept trying to make it work. I kept trying to make myself better. It must be my fault.
I just want to pause for 1 second, because I don't want to graze over that, because that is a situation that so many men and women find themselves in, and it's something that leads to that imposter syndrome. And I know that you're going to talk a little bit about that, because when so many areas of our lives, first of all, when we have these amazing gifts, and then there are other areas of our lives that aren't in alignment, so many people tend to have the imposter syndrome of, and I love how you called it the elephant in the room, really, of I'm doing all these things, but what's the area I'm looking at that perhaps is keeping me from that real success, or really being able to help the people at the level I want to help them at. So I just want to pause for our listeners and say, if anyone in our community who's listening to this feels that way, please know that, first of all, there is support for you. Get a coach. But also that it's okay to keep moving forward in what you're doing, having the faith, and knowing that the steps will show up, and you're gonna present that to us right now. I just know it.
Well, exactly. It was the big elephant in the room, and I had to address it, and it was a really difficult decision. And I wasn't at first willing to even look at it, but while we were in couple counseling, it became very apparent. And I saw the bird's eye view, as I was trained to do in all of that coaching training, and I could see that it wasn't going to change, and I couldn't change him. He couldn't change me, and that's okay. He was where he was at. I was where I was at, and we both needed to get healthy and to be the best parents that we could be for our children.
And what a beautiful, absolutely beautiful place to be too, in a relationship, and not have all the negativity, but really be able to look at it from that broad view and say, I love you, and I see you for who you are, and I accept you for who you are, and you're doing the same, and we both just can see that this is not something that we're in alignment with anymore. What a beautiful story. I love that.
Only he was not in alignment with that. He wanted to stay together, and in that hold of that separation, what someone needs to know is, if you're leaving someone who's even just verbally and mentally and emotionally abusive, they hold on tighter and things escalate. So it got violent in the end, even though we were trying to go through mediation and do it all very calmly. And that threw me in a whole different world. Here's someone I had been with for 20 years. I had managed to work around all of those, the eggshells and the, walking on eggshell kind of moments where you're just constantly accommodating to make sure that the other person is okay. It really threw a big wrench in it. We lost everything. We lost the house. We lost our finances. Everything was devastated. And I had to rebuild from there. And thank God I had the tools. And I have another dog showing up here. Now I've got two on my lap. But I had the resources to do that. And, there was a real moment there where my son was like, "Mom, are we going to be homeless?" And I was like, "No, honey, of course not. We have plenty of family and friends. That's not going to happen." But honestly, in the recesses of my mind, I didn't know. I wasn't sure. And, for all I knew, we were going to be living in a tent or a car, so it was overcoming those moments that have made me extremely resilient and kind of pushed me into a realm where my coaching started helping women in serious transition and those kinds of transitions.
And so you've taken that and you've built the practice, but you've written a book and you have more in the works.
I wrote a book. I started a nonprofit that helps women through domestic violence and abuse. through, basically I teach them self-love, self-confidence, self-trust. My coaching practice, that's exactly what I work with women on, and men too. It's funny, I do attract a lot of men. I tend to market more towards women, but you'd be surprised at how many men have been through, childhood abuse, partner abuse as well. So yeah, really just helping people transform that tragedy into some kind of treasure for themselves. There is so many gifts when you start unpacking guilt and shame, and those feelings that you have can be transformed to be fuel in the fear. That's the other thing that gets transformed. You can fuel that to make more freedom for yourself, more strength and courage for yourself by using the gifts that those things give you. And I help people see what those gifts are. Because, you talk about domestic abuse, you don't think there's any gift in that. But for me, I was living a life where I was not liking myself. And the coaching transformed me into being able to love and look in the mirror and love myself. My partner had been mirroring for years that self-hatred that I had for myself. And I'll tell you, he probably never said anything as cruel as I did in my mind to myself in the mirror.
Right. Most people don't. Yeah.
And that's the gift. The gift of that relationship was I learned how to love myself. I learned independence. I learned to be resourceful and to be compassionate. So those are the kind of gifts that my clients get when they work with me, is uncovering those gifts. We really dive into it. We dive into their childhoods. We dive into all their adversities, their beliefs, their underlying commitments, so that they can create something that they really are proud of and want to have in their life.
Right. And that's in the book. Is that the work that you do in the book?
Yes, that's the book is based in that. Thrive Anyway. It's about healing your own heart and finding the answers from the inside, not the out, because we can look to drugs, we can look to, therapy, we can look to all these different things that all, maybe some of them do have help, but really the inside is what we got to work on. If we want to see our outer worlds change, we got to change our inner worlds. And that's the process. And it's actually a fun process. It sounds like work, but it's amazing to dive in and so liberating to be able to tap into those answers coming from a deeper part of you, not your head, but your heart. And that's really the gist of the book. That's the gist of the coaching that I do. And the results are phenomenal in a very short period of time.
Well, I definitely want to make sure everyone has a chance to go and grab the book called Thrive Anyway. And also, I'd like to just kind of wrap up by giving an overview of how your life has changed and how it looks now, because everybody loves the underdog to success story. So tell us how your life looks and what is so different now.
Well, what's different now is I have a much deeper relationship with my children, with my family, with my friends, because during the time I was going through those 20 years, I kept it to myself. It was all hidden. I suffered in silence. And it was not obvious to the outside. It was so subtle that I kept my friends at a certain distance. I kept my family at a certain distance. Even my mothering was different before this happened and after this happened. As I gained the courage and confidence, my children see that. I read my son's essay for his college. I don't think he wanted me to read it, but it just happened to be laying about. And that's what he was talking about. He was talking about the gift that he got. His father's parents bought them a house, and he had, solidity and foundation there. And he had a closer relationship with his dad because he became a much better father after. And with me, we moved around a lot. We had other people living with us because I was supporting other mothers going through this and their children. So they got to learn flexibility and transition. And the people that they are, I'm just so proud of who they become as young adults. They're amazing, compassionate children for the results of that.
With an incredible role model.
It's just so much more richer and more fulfilling.
Yeah. And they have an incredible role model. I mean, I think that I'm a huge proponent of everything starts at home. And so the resilience that they learned and the love and the stability, it's something that I think every parent wants for their child. So it's beautiful that even in Once the gift showed up, I liked how you said tragedy to treasure. Once the gift showed up, it's nice to see that they can get the things from both parents that they really, really need. And so kudos to you for rising above and really making a treasure from your tragedy. So if people want to get in touch with you, they want to connect with you, they want to buy the book, what's one thing they can do right now to get connected to you?
To be connected to me, they can email me directly if they'd like at julianabishop@gmail.com. And that's JulianaBishop at Gmail. And they can also, the book can be found on Amazon, and they can also find it at the website julianabishop.com.
Awesome. So grab the book, check it out. Who doesn't love an amazing story of success? Juliana, thank you so much for being on the Show Up Show today. And we look forward to seeing you rise even higher.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
If you like what you're hearing on the Show Up Show, be sure to subscribe. And if you really, really, really like it, please leave a 5-star review. If you'd like to connect with the Show Up Show on social media, you can find us on Facebook at the Show Up Show Podcast or on Twitter at the Show Up Show. Let's be sure to connect over on the other side. Thanks for listening.